Like and subscribe now. This incredible story of friendship and heroism will leave you speechless. You won't believe what happened when one legend saved another. Don't miss it. A story about brotherhood, courage, and saving a life. It was supposed to be just another day on a movie set. The sun was shining in Arizona. The cameras were rolling. Everything seemed normal. But in just a few seconds, everything would change forever. One of Hollywood's greatest legends would come closer to death than he'd ever been. And another legend would have to make a split-second decision that would either save his friend's life or watch him die. What happened next was so incredible, so brave, so shocking that it would change how everyone in Hollywood viewed true friendship forever. This is the story of how one moment of courage turned a tragedy into a miracle. This is the story of John Wayne, Dean Martin, and a decision that will give you chills. Two legends in one dangerous day. The year was 1965. John Wayne was already an American institution. At 58 years old, he had been making movies for nearly 4 decades. He was known as the Duke. He was the image of strength, courage, and American values. Children grew up watching him save the day on screen. Adults respected him as a symbol of everything good about America. But John Wayne was also just a man. And like all men, he got tired. He had worked nonstop for years. He did his own stunts. He refused to let younger actors do the dangerous work that should be his. He believed that if he was asking the audience to believe he was a cowboy or a soldier, he should do the real work. By 1965, that commitment was catching up with him. Dean Martin *** was John Wayne's friend. Not just a casual Hollywood acquaintance, but a real friend. They had done movies together. They had spent time together away from the cameras. They respected each other deeply. Dean admired John's strength and dedication. John admired Dean's talent and his kindness. They were working together on a Western film called The Sons of Katie Elder. It was a big production with a large budget and a strict schedule. Every day mattered. Every scene had to be filmed perfectly. Time was money in Hollywood. The scene they were filming that day was an action sequence. John Wayne was supposed to ride a horse across a shallow river. Seemed simple enough. John had ridden horses hundreds of times. He was an experienced rider. But this particular horse was young, nervous, and unpredictable. Dean Martin was watching from the sidelines, waiting for his turn to film his scenes. He was sitting in a director's chair, drinking coffee, watching his friend prepare for the shot. The director, Henry Hathaway, was a tough man who didn't accept excuses or delays. He had a reputation for pushing actors hard to get the best performances. He wanted this river crossing to look authentic and exciting. "All right, John," the director called out. "We're going to do this in one take if possible. The light is perfect right now and we need to use it. You ride that horse across the river, make it look natural, make it look real. Can you do that?" John Wayne nodded. "No problem, Henry. I've done this 1,000 times." The camera crew got into position. The lighting technicians made final adjustments. The sound technicians checked their equipment. Everything was ready. John climbed onto the horse. The animal was already nervous, stamping its feet and tossing its head. John spoke to the horse quietly, trying to calm it down. His voice was steady and confident. "Easy, girl," John said, stroking the horse's neck. "Just a simple ride across the river. You can do this." The horse seemed to settle a little bit. "Rolling," the camera operator called out. "Action," the director shouted. The moment everything went wrong. John Wayne urged the horse forward. The animal stepped into the shallow river. The water wasn't deep, probably only 2 or 3 feet at the deepest point. Seemed safe, but safety is a fragile thing. Halfway across the river, something happened. Nobody would ever know exactly what caused it. Maybe the horse stepped on a slippery rock. Maybe it was spooked by the movement of the camera. Maybe it was just an unlucky moment. The horse suddenly reared up on its hind legs. John Wayne was a skilled rider, but when a horse rears up in water, there's only so much anyone can do. He tried to hold on. He tried to regain control. But the horse came down hard and twisted sideways. John Wayne fell into the water. It happened in slow motion and impossibly fast at the same time. 1 second he was sitting confidently on the horse. The next second he was under the water. The horse panicked. Instead of moving away from John, it turned back toward him. As John was trying to get his head above water, The horse's hooves came down, directly on John Wayne's chest. The sound that came out of John was something between a gasp and a scream. Everyone on the set froze. The camera stopped rolling. The director stood up from his chair. "Cut! Cut!" Henry Hathaway yelled, but nobody was looking at him. Everyone was looking at the river. John Wayne was lying face down in the water. His body wasn't moving. For a moment, maybe 2 seconds, nobody did anything. It was the kind of moment that happens sometimes. A moment where people are so shocked that their bodies don't obey their minds. A moment where everyone is frozen in disbelief. Dean Martin was the first to move. Dean wasn't an athlete. He wasn't trained in rescue. He was an entertainer. A singer and comedian who spent most of his time on stage or in front of cameras. But when he saw his friend lying motionless in the water, none of that mattered. Dean dropped his coffee cup. It fell to the ground and shattered, but he didn't even notice. He was already running toward the river. "John!" Dean was shouting as he ran. "John! John!" The other people on set were starting to react now. The production assistants were running for the medics. The stunt coordinator was heading toward the water. The cameraman was trying to figure out if he should keep filming. But Dean was already in the water. He reached John's body and grabbed him under the arms. John was completely limp. There was no response. No movement. Nothing. "Come on, buddy," Dean said, his voice breaking. "Come on, come on, come on." Dean started dragging John's body out of the water. It was harder than he expected. John was a big man, over 200 pounds of dead weight. The river bottom was slippery. The water was pulling at them both. "Help me," Dean called out. "Somebody help me." By then, other people were running into the water. The stunt coordinator. A couple of strong crew members. They grabbed John and helped pull him onto the riverbank. John wasn't breathing. His face was pale. His chest wasn't moving. His eyes were closed. He looked like a dead man. "We need a doctor," someone shouted. But Dean wasn't waiting for a doctor. He had seen something once years ago. He couldn't remember exactly where. Maybe a movie. Maybe a documentary. Maybe just something he'd heard someone talk about. He remembered that sometimes, if someone wasn't breathing, you could restart their breathing by using pressure on their chest. "Get back," Dean said to the people standing around John. "Give him space." Dean knelt down next to his friend. He looked at John's chest. He positioned his hands. And then he started pushing down hard on John's chest. 1 push. 2 pushes. 3 pushes. "Come on, John," Dean was saying almost like a prayer. "Come on, buddy. Come on. You're too strong to go out like this. You're John Wayne. You don't give up. Push. Push. Push." The crew members stood around watching. Some of them were crying. Some of them looked like they were going to be sick. The director had gone completely white. "Where's the doctor?" someone kept saying. "Where's the medical team?" But there was no doctor coming. This was a remote filming location in Arizona. The nearest hospital was miles away. By the time an ambulance arrived, it would be too late. Push. 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 Dean's arms were burning. Sweat was pouring down his face. His clothes were soaked from the river water. He was exhausted, but he kept pushing. "Come on, John," Dean said again, his voice harsh now, almost angry. "Don't you dare give up on me. Don't you dare leave me. I need you, buddy. I need you." One of the crew members who had some first aid training put his hand on Dean's shoulder. "I don't think he's coming back," the man said quietly. "It's been too long. He's gone." Dean didn't even look at the man. He kept pushing on John's chest. Push. 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 It was a picture that would be burned into the memory of everyone who saw it. Dean Martin, soaking wet, his face twisted with effort and emotion, desperately trying to force life back into his friend's body. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It was a picture of true friendship. One person literally fighting death to save another. 30 seconds passed. Then a minute. Then 2 minutes. Everyone had accepted it now. John Wayne was gone. The horse accident had killed one of Hollywood's greatest legends. And then something happened that seemed impossible. John Wayne coughed. It was a small cough. Almost gentle. But it was a cough. A sign of life. "He's breathing," someone shouted. "He's breathing." John coughed again. His body convulsed. Water came out of his mouth. His eyes fluttered. The medical team that had just arrived came running over with a stretcher. They carefully placed John on the stretcher and started checking him over. His pulse was weak, but it was there. His breathing was shallow, but he was breathing. "We need to get him to a hospital immediately," one of the paramedics said. The ambulance that had been waiting nearby came racing over. John was loaded into it carefully. One of the paramedics looked at Dean. "Your friend just saved his life," the paramedic said. "If you hadn't started CPR when you did, if you'd waited any longer, he wouldn't have made it." When heroism became a miracle, the ambulance raced toward the hospital with lights flashing and sirens wailing. Dean wanted to go with them, but they needed space to work on John. So Dean sat in a production vehicle, soaking wet, shaking, unable to stop replaying the moment in his mind. He kept thinking about those seconds when he thought John was gone. He kept thinking about what it would have meant if he hadn't acted quickly. He kept thinking about how close they had come to tragedy. The set was shut down for the day. All the crew members went back to the hotel in silence. Nobody talked about what they'd seen. There was nothing to say. At the hospital, doctors worked on John Wayne through the night. They did X-rays and CT scans. They checked for broken bones and internal bleeding. They monitored his heart and his lungs. They wanted to understand exactly how badly he'd been hurt. The diagnosis was shocking. John had 3 broken ribs. His left shoulder was dislocated. He had massive bruising across his chest and side. His lungs had filled with water, and he'd been minutes away from permanent brain damage. If the paramedics had arrived even 5 minutes later, he probably wouldn't have survived. But he was alive. And the doctors said that was because of Dean Martin. "Your friend performed CPR that saved your life," one of the doctors told John when he woke up the next morning. "If he hadn't started those chest compressions when he did, your heart would have stopped, and we wouldn't have been able to restart it. You owe him everything." John Wayne, lying in a hospital bed with tubes coming out of his arms, started crying. Not from pain, but from the overwhelming realization of what had happened. He had come so close to dying. And he was alive because of his friend's quick thinking and willingness to act. When Dean came to visit, John reached out and grabbed his hand. John was a tough man. He wasn't someone who showed emotion easily. But tears were running down his face. "You saved my life," John said simply. "You're my friend," Dean replied. "Of course I saved your life." "No," John said, shaking his head. "You don't understand. You literally saved my life. The doctor told me I would have been dead if you'd waited any longer. You risked getting hurt yourself. You didn't know if it would work. But you did it anyway." Dean looked uncomfortable with the praise. He just shrugged. "I couldn't let you die, John. That's not how friendship works." John Wayne spent 3 weeks in the hospital. The movie production was shut down. The studio lost money. But nobody cared about the money anymore. The only thing that mattered was that John Wayne was alive. When John was finally released from the hospital, he couldn't go back to filming for another month. During that time, something remarkable happened in Hollywood. The story spread. Not through the gossip columns or the entertainment magazines first, but through word of mouth. Director to producer. Actor to actor. Crew member to crew member. The story of how Dean Martin had saved John Wayne's life. And the story changed how people thought about both of them. John Wayne had always been seen as a symbol of strength and toughness. But now people saw him differently. They saw him as a real person. Someone who could be vulnerable, who could be in danger, who could need help from someone else. And Dean Martin, who had always been seen as an entertainer and a comedian, was now seen as a hero. People understood that beneath the jokes and the charm, there was a man of real courage. A man who would literally save someone's life without hesitation. The media picked up the story. Newspapers ran headlines. Dean Martin saves John Wayne's life. Magazine covers featured both of them with the story of what happened. It became one of the biggest news stories in Hollywood that year. But more important than the media attention was what it meant for John Wayne's life. John recovered completely. He returned to filming The Sons of Katie Elder, and the movie became one of his most successful films. He went on to make more movies, more great work. Because of Dean's quick action, John Wayne got to continue his career. He got to make more memories. He got to live years more that he wouldn't have lived otherwise. John publicly credited Dean with saving his life. In interviews, John would tell the story. He would get emotional talking about it. He would say that Dean Martin was the truest friend he'd ever had. The two men became even closer after that. They did more movies together. They spent more time together. And John never forgot what Dean had done for him. Years later, when John Wayne was dying from cancer, one of the people he most wanted to see was Dean Martin. They sat together, and John thanked him again for saving his life. "I got extra years," John told Dean. "I got extra years with my family. I got to make more movies. I got to accomplish things I wouldn't have accomplished. And I got all of that because you had the courage to act. You can never really repay something like that, Dean. But I want you to know that I've thought about it every single day of my life." True heroism isn't about fame, it's about action. This story teaches us something we desperately need to understand in our world. Real heroism isn't complicated. Real heroism is just doing what's right when someone needs you. Dean Martin wasn't a trained lifeguard. He wasn't a paramedic. He didn't have a special certificate or a degree in emergency response. He was just an entertainer, a singer, a comedian, a friend. But when his friend's life was in danger, none of those labels mattered. What mattered was that someone needed help, and Dean was willing to provide it. Think about what Dean had to overcome in those moments. He had to overcome fear. Jumping into a river to help an unconscious man is terrifying. There's a part of every human being that wants to stay safe, to let someone else handle it, to convince yourself that it's not really your responsibility. He had to overcome doubt. Dean wasn't trained in CPR. He wasn't sure what he was doing would work. He could have listened to the crew member who told him it was too late, that John was already dead. He could have given up. He had to overcome exhaustion. Performing CPR is physically brutal. Your arms burn. Your lungs burn. Every instinct is telling you to stop. But Dean kept pushing. He kept trying. He refused to accept that his friend was gone. And here's the most important thing. Dean didn't do it for recognition. He didn't do it to be a hero. He did it because his friend needed help. So many times in our world, we're waiting for permission before we act. We're waiting for someone to tell us it's our responsibility. We're waiting for someone to thank us or recognize us or pay us to help. But real heroism doesn't work that way. Real heroism is about seeing someone in danger and acting immediately, without calculating the cost to yourself. Real heroism is about choosing another person's safety over your own comfort. Real heroism is about being the person who doesn't wait for someone else to do something. There's a lesson here about friendship too. Real friendship means being willing to risk something for the other person. Dean Martin risked his safety. He risked getting hurt in that river. He risked his reputation if something had gone wrong. He risked everything for John Wayne because that's what real friendship demands. In our modern world, we often talk about friendship in shallow ways. We talk about having fun together, or enjoying the same things or having things in common. But real friendship is deeper than that. Real friendship is about being the person who shows up when it matters. Real friendship is about being willing to sacrifice for someone else. There's also an important lesson about the power of action in moments of crisis. When someone is in danger, action is more important than experience. Dean wasn't experienced in CPR, but he acted anyway. He tried something even though he wasn't sure it would work. And his willingness to act, his refusal to give up, saved a life. How many times do we not help someone because we don't think we're qualified? How many times do we tell ourselves that someone else would be better at this, so we should wait? How many times do we let fear of doing something wrong keep us from trying to do something right? The truth is, in emergencies, trying something is almost always better than doing nothing. Dean didn't need to be perfect. He just needed to try. There's also a lesson about the kind of person we want to be. Do you want to be the kind of person who stands on the sidelines, or the kind of person who jumps in to help? When John Wayne fell into that river, Dean Martin could have waited for official help. He could have left it to the stunt coordinators or the production assistants or the medical team that was supposedly on their way. Nobody would have blamed him. It wasn't technically his responsibility. But that's not the kind of person Dean Martin was. He was the kind of person who couldn't stand by while his friend was dying. He was the kind of person who would risk his own safety to help someone he cared about. And here's the beautiful thing, because Dean was that kind of person, he got to save a life. He got to experience the miracle of bringing someone back from the edge of death. He got to have the satisfaction of knowing that his actions mattered. He got to truly make a difference in someone's life. This story also reminds us that heroes aren't born. They're created by the choices they make in moments of crisis. ***. Dean Martin didn't wake up that day thinking he was going to be a hero. He didn't have a plan. He didn't prepare for it. But when the moment came, he made the choice that made him heroic. And that choice changed everything. Every single one of us faces moments like this. Not necessarily life and death moments, though some of us do. But moments where we have to choose between being comfortable and helping someone else. Moments where we have to choose between being safe and being brave. Those moments define who we are. They define what kind of person we want to be. The final lesson from this story is perhaps the most profound. When you save someone's life, you're not just giving them another day. You're giving them all the days after that. You're giving them all the experiences, the relationships, the accomplishments they wouldn't have had otherwise. Because John Wayne lived, he got to make more movies. He got to spend more time with his family. He got to accomplish things he wouldn't have accomplished. In a very real sense, Dean Martin didn't just save one life that day. He created possibilities for all the people that John's continued life would touch. That's the power of heroism. That's what it really means to make a difference. It's not about getting recognized or becoming famous. It's about understanding that your actions have ripples that extend far beyond what you can see. John Wayne lived for many more years because of Dean Martin. During those years, he made people laugh, made people think, inspired people through his movies. He had relationships with his children and grandchildren. He experienced joy and love and meaning. And he had all of that because Dean Martin was willing to act in a moment of crisis. So here's the question for you: when your moment comes, and it will come in some form, what will you do? Will you be the kind of person who acts? Will you be the kind of person who helps? Will you be the kind of person who sacrifices their comfort for someone else's safety? Because that's what makes us truly great. Not our accomplishments. Not our success, not our fame, but our willingness to help each other when it matters most. Dean Martin understood that. And because he understood that, a legend lived to tell the story. Like and subscribe. This incredible story of true friendship and heroism just left us speechless. If this story touched your heart and inspired you to be the kind of person who helps others, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to our channel to see more stories about real heroes, real courage, and real friendship that changed lives. In the comments below, tell us, do you know someone in your life who has shown this kind of heroism? Have you ever had to make a split-second decision to help someone? Share your story, because your experience could inspire others to be brave too. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, so you never miss another story about people who chose to do what's right when it mattered most. Subscribe now and join our community of people who believe that heroism isn't about having superpowers. It's about having the courage to act when someone needs you. We'll see you in the next video.